Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm talking about 3 actions to take if your husband looks at other females online. My guest Taylor was tired of her husband's heavy drinking and how controlling he was. On their 10-year anniversary, she felt trapped, resentful, and wished she was with someone else. But she started using a particular phrase, and today her marriage is better than she ever thought was possible. And her husband mostly stopped drinking. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. That's coming up. But first, let's talk about 3 actions to take if your husband looks at other females online. When you fell in love with your husband, it was partly because he made you feel beautiful and sexy and special. So it can be especially crushing to find out that he's still looking at other women online, even though he's with you. It can make you feel undesirable, disappointed, and less than. Even worse, it might also lower your opinion of him. I mean, why would he sink so low to sneak around on the computer and look at sleazy strangers? Is this who you married? Naturally, you just want him to stop looking for good. Fortunately, you can restore your confidence, get the respect you deserve, and preserve the passion. Here are 3 actions to take when your husband looks at other females online. Number 1, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? Here's an insight that changed my entire life. Whenever I'm tempted to control what my husband does, even if it's something that seems clear he really shouldn't do, it's because I'm afraid. If I'm not afraid, I wouldn't have to try to control him. If you find yourself trying to get your husband to stop looking at women online, it's because you're afraid of something. You might wonder if he's going to go further than just looking, or if it's taking away from the passion that you two could be enjoying together. Or your fear might be something else entirely. This is why jealousy is so unattractive. It's always about fear. Feeling afraid that he won't be passionate toward me, or that he'll desire someone else more than me, or that he'll reject me because of how I look. Knowing the answer to the question, what are you afraid of, is a great start to transforming a painful situation where you feel mistreated and hurt into an empowering one where you feel dignified and confident. Knowing specifically what you're afraid of is like shining a light under the bed where the monster lives. Sometimes that monster turns out to be just a sock and a few dust bunnies. My fears can be like that too. Number 2, find your paper. The corollary to the life-changing realization that all control is based in fear is that whenever I'm trying to control someone else, my own life is going down the street with no one at the wheel. Every single time. My fantasy that if he would just stop looking at other women online, then I would be happy is just that, a fantasy. There's something much more interesting happening on my paper that I'm avoiding because it's scary. My paper is where everything I do have control over lives, like my attitude, what I focus on, and all my decisions. And sometimes it seems a lot less scary to just be the armchair quarterback of my husband's life than to really look at my own paper. Of course, he shouldn't look at other women online. I can feel confident about that, except that it's not actually in my control. It's not on my paper anywhere. That's all on his paper. So a very interesting question to ask is, what is it I'm afraid of on my paper? Is it that talk I'm supposed to give, but that I'm nervous about? Or is that I'm resisting writing a new book? Is it something I did that I probably need to apologize for, but I'm not feeling up to being accountable for it yet? Because I do stuff like that. And I focus on what my husband is doing wrong as a distraction from my own discomfort. So it's interesting to ask yourself, when you're feeling upset about your husband looking at women online, what else is going on with you that might need your urgent attention? Because when I give myself the attention I need, that urge to control what my husband is doing or looking at greatly subsides. Number 3, drop and do 10. No, it's not 10 push-ups. Isn't it great that there are no push-ups involved in the intimacy skills? I'm a coach, which means I may ask you to try things that feel hard, but make you proud afterward. But I'm not big on assigning push-ups. What I'm big on is asking what you're grateful for about your man. I'm talking about dropping and doing 10 gratitudes for him being in your life. I know his faults may feel bigger right now while you're thinking about him looking at other women on the internet, but you picked him for good reasons. What are those reasons? Can you list 5 of them? Can you get to 10? Or if you're an overachiever, can you get to 22 things you're grateful for about your man? You know who you are, you overachievers. I know it's challenging to do this when you're focused on what he's doing wrong. And that's exactly the point. What you focus on increases. You can also focus on what he's doing right and have a much better experience with your man. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Taylor, was tired of her husband's heavy drinking and how controlling he was. On their 10-year anniversary, she felt trapped, resentful, and wished she was with someone else. But she started using a particular phrase, and today her marriage is better than she ever thought was possible, and her husband mostly stopped drinking. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. Taylor, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I am completely honored to be here and grateful for this opportunity. Is that my story?
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much. So let's start in the bad old days. What was happening in your marriage?
So I think we should take it back to the very beginning. I remember seeing my husband when I was like 16 years old. The first time I saw him was at a skate park. And I remember thinking like, oh, that is the cutest boy I've ever seen in my entire life. I was actually dating someone at the time with him at the skate park. And the next night, I actually had a dream that I married him, the guy that I met at the skate park, the really cute guy. And like, knowing me, I was just like, the next time I saw him, I was with my boyfriend at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I had a dream I married you. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, who is this girl? Anyways, that being said, a couple years later, when I was 19, we got reintroduced in our lives. And it just clicked. Something clicked. He was a couple years older than me, and we fell like head over heels in love. So much so that we decided to get married at 19 years old and 20. Literally everyone thought we were crazy. Like, they were like, what are you doing? You just graduated high school. So we got married. We did. And actually, a week after our wedding, we felt called to move to Oklahoma. so I could go to Bible college out there. And so we lived in Oklahoma for 2 years. And to be honest with you, during that time, I just remember just being so happy and almost like mad at everybody who told us not to. Like, we were broke. Life was hard, but we loved each other. We like had each other, you know, we didn't have family or outside sources telling us what to do. So we were able to build like a really strong foundation. That being said, we got pregnant about a year after marriage. And after we had our first and after I graduated, we moved back to Kentucky, our home. And, you know, life continued on. There were obviously like bad parts, but for me, I feel like the good parts outweighed the bad parts. But as I continued to have more and more kids. I only have 3 kids. I don't know why I'm acting like I have so many.
There's like 100 of them. Yeah.
It seems like 100 sometimes, honestly.
Yeah.
And moms all know. Once you add the 3rd kid in, you're like, wow, what is life?
Yeah.
You're just in survival mode.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that has a lot to do with like my story. And I feel like as a mom and being heavily involved in church world and honestly, just like religion, I put a lot of pressure on myself, like to be the perfect mom, to be the perfect wife. And to be honest with you, like as the years kept going by, I loved my kids, like loved my husband so much. And I really did like a fond like respect for my husband. Like he would work all the time, but I appreciated that about him. I never devalued him in that way, but as I learned the skills, like I saw where, you know, I could obviously be better. But that being said, through those years, I really lost me. I stopped taking time for me. In fact, like when I would like have moments for myself, I would feel like wrong, you know, because as moms, it's almost like the mom shaming world is real. And it's almost like you can't make time for yourself, or you can't go like hang out with your girlfriends. You have to make your kids your ultimate priority, you know? So I really lost like my sense of self through that. And like you said, our 10-year anniversary was approaching, and I was turning 30 that year. Things got really, really dark for me. Like I started to like really think about like just bad things, you know, like I was constantly dreaming of like what it would be like to be with other men. And like, as you can see, I have a lot of shame in that. I was broken. Like, it was like I could only think bad thoughts. We stopped getting involved with church. I actually lost a lot of friends during this season. Family went through something really traumatic. And it was just a really dark season. During that season, I actually, like, because I was having these crazy internal struggles, I finally was like, I have to tell my husband what's going on in my brain or I'm going to, like, lose it. It was just, I was at my breaking point. So I remember this night, like, it was so sad, but like it felt so good to just get these thoughts out that I was having. I remember telling him, like, I either have to like go away for a month and figure out like, who I am and what I want in life, because I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, or I want an open relationship. And I know that sounds so crazy. but that's where I was at. Like, I was desperate for just to feel something, you know?
Yes.
It wasn't the right, but I was desperate. And I will literally never forget, Laura. He like wrapped me in his arms and he literally said, like, there's nothing you could do would ever make me stop loving you. He said, I will do whatever I can to keep you, if that means an open relationship. This man started listening to podcasts about open relationships. To just try to help me. So through that time, he did start drinking. And as I like practice the skills and just my mind has like been so renewed through the skills that like I look back on that time and I really do feel like he was drinking to cope through my sadness and my confusion. So I never actually gave him a hard time about that because I felt like he needs it in a way. I'm so broken that he needs that. But it got honestly like pretty bad. Like every single night drinking. It wasn't to the point where it was like affecting his personality per se, but I was worried for him. Like I was like, this cannot be good for your liver. This cannot be good for your health. And every once in a while I would say like, hey, like I'm really worried for your liver and stuff like that. So, man, I went through years, probably 2 to 3 years of this, just like chaos in my own brain, feeling so broken, hopeless. And honestly, like my husband stopped, like he stopped being involved as a leader, like in our community, in our church. Like I could tell that like what I was going through was affecting him so much. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah. And I just really hear the heaviness and the shame you felt about being in so much pain and not really knowing how to get out of it and proposing an open marriage or a month away. Like, I got to do something, something has to give, but you didn't really know how to give yourself what you needed, it sounds like.
No, I had no idea. Like I came from, we never were shown what a healthy marriage looks like. So we were doing the best we could, you know, and it was a really hard time. So,
and you probably felt like you were the only one who felt like this. You're the only person.
Oh, absolutely. I was like, it was like my shame became me.
Oh, ouch. Awful.
It was like I was choosing to see myself as just this new and awful person. And I thought everyone saw me like that because I was seeing myself like that. And it was ugly. It was just like not good, you know?
Yeah. Painful. And
so
yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I guess I just so much want to respond to that because I hear how much shame it brought you. And I, you know, now that I've gotten to hear stories like yours so many times, I just know how much we all have in common and how human, what a mere mortal woman you were. That's all, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so
yeah.
Why I really like wrote in and I really wanted to share my story because of the hope that I feel now is astronomical. Like it's insane, Laura. Like it has changed my life.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Okay. So maybe I should share how I found you. Okay. Great. So one of my very, very most dearest, bestest friends in the whole world invited me to a small group, a women's small group. So we started meeting weekly, and honestly, there was like There was no plan. We were just kind of meeting and talking for the first couple of times, getting to know each other. There was no agenda. And it was great. Like, it was awesome. We would just have a glass of wine, and it was just nice to be with a group of girls once a night. It felt really good. So one night, my good friend was like, "Hey, I've been reading this book for a while now." She's actually like doing coaching now, or in school to be a coach. So she's like, "It's really good, and I think you guys would really like it." So we all kind of got the book and started reading it on our own like time. And every week we would all come back like, "Oh my gosh, like, Nicole, you didn't even express to us like how much this is impacting us, or how much it will impact us." It has, like, it's just so amazing, these group of girls that have formed that are so like life-giving now because of the book. Like, we have a very safe spot where we can be vulnerable with each other and talk and speak positivity, like, over our marriages. And we're not coming to complain about our husbands. We're coming to actually find solutions, you know? And I've never had that before, ever. And it's been such a good and eye-opening experience. So much so, I have to tell you, Laura, we call ourselves Laura's Angels.
Cute.
And we always are like, "What would Laura do? WWLD." Silly stuff like that, because we've all attached ourselves so much to the skills, and like, just how much they've radically changed all of us, you know?
Wow.
And we're constantly texting, like, "How are we winning at the skills, girls?" So that's how I found you. Or the book. I wasn't really in a place where I was looking, but I have to say that I was like, I am just like so grateful and happy that I found this. And I just want to share, like, if you really stay committed to the skills, even when you feel like it's not working, they really can change your life. You know, I feel like I'm talking so much.
Well, I'm loving everything you're saying. This is very moving, and I appreciate your vulnerability so much, because I hear how much this meant to you. And you had mentioned also that your husband was controlling. You felt really kind of oppressed.
So during that time, I'm glad you brought that up, because I meant to say this. During that time when I was kind of going off the wall, he was scared. I mean, I scared him a lot. Like, he married a like godly woman. Here I am asking for an open relationship. So he was like, "Well, this is new territory." And I think through that time and through him being scared, he started to get very controlling of me. Like, I mean, rightfully so. Like, I gave him reasons not to trust me, to be honest with you. But when he was controlling, I really just felt like I deserved it, if that makes sense. So it just was like, yes, it bred something really weird within our relationship, you know? And it wasn't healthy, and I knew that. And it would really bother me, but I felt like I couldn't speak up, because I was like, well, I brought this on myself. So in public settings, I would say certain things, and afterwards, like in the car ride home, he would just like beat me up about it. Like, "Why would you say that?" You know? And it would really bother me and affect like kind of my self-esteem. Like, oh my gosh, my husband doesn't even like the things that I say. I was just like so broken. That's the only way I can describe it. So when I found the skills, the first one that I really dove heavily into was self-care. I really allowed myself to love myself. And it had been so long since I've done that. I felt so good doing the little things that made me happy, and not like beating myself up over them either. Like if I wanted to lay in bed and watch a show, like it honestly, Laura, it makes me a better mom if I have that little quiet moment to like unwind and not think about, what are my kids going to be wearing tomorrow? What's on the schedule? What's this? What's that? And I really started to just dial in on what I need. And honestly, like my self-care changes from day to day. I really love to be with me now.
Oh.
And before, I hated myself. Like I hated me. I love figuring out like what I need, and or if I'm dealing with an emotion, I ask myself like, what is this? Where's the root of this? It's almost like I'm really figuring out who I am. And that's a really good feeling. And then I started to play around with the skills, and I started to introduce like, gratefulness. And the one that I really was curious about was expressing my pure desires. So just out of curiosity, I would just be like, I love a vacation. And so literally, Laura, the next day, he was like, hey, how do you feel about going camping this weekend? And I'm like thinking in my head, well, that's not really the vacation I want.
Yeah.
But it was so cute that he like immediately jumped on that desire. And it wasn't what I wanted, to be honest with you. Like, I don't love camping. He loves it. But I practiced gratitude and receiving. And I was just like, that sounds so amazing. Let's go camping. So we go camping, and it was such a amazing trip. Like, I just remember being like so grateful and like so happy to just have this quality time with him and our kids. And it was honestly like better than a beach vacation because the way we connected was incredible, And I remember thinking like, because the skills were brand new, he was trying to build a fire, and it wasn't working, Laura. Like the wood was wet, and I remember being like, stay on your paper, don't tell him what to do, don't tell and I didn't. I was so proud of myself. But it's not to say like I'm not perfect at the skills. That was me just experimenting. So I continue to like love myself, continue to make a priority to do self-care. Like every single day, I made it a priority. I really focused heavily on that because I really felt like that's where I was winning.
What would you do? What kinds of things do you do for your self-care?
That's interesting. I haven't like thought about like I said, it changes from day to day. Honestly, sometimes it's sitting outside and being still and listening to the wind and just being present in the moment. Sometimes it's watching a stupid reality TV show.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love my girlfriends. So my favorite, when I'm the most gawful, is when I'm with them. And I just love being around people. So that's a big one for me. Like I get energy from people. So, and my husband's an introvert, so he doesn't always understand that. And when I told you that he was pretty controlling, that's been a challenge, to be honest with you. Like expressing my pure desire that this is actually a part of like my self-care is getting to be with my girlfriends and have meaningful conversations. It has been a little bit of a struggle. I felt like instantly I saw the skills taking place. Like I watched it unfold. Like I saw my husband starting to just like come back a little every day as I was coming back a little bit every day and getting healthy in my own brain. And then there were moments where I started to notice that he would get really controlling, like to the point where like he didn't like what I was wearing almost every single day. And I was like, so I really started to do spouse fulfilling prophecies. Like that's the only way. Me and the girls were like, how are we going to win at this? And we were like, let's try this. Let's try this spouse fulfilling prophecies. So I did. I just started saying like, I love that you can trust me. I love that you are my safe place. Like I just started saying phrases like that.
And did that feel like a complete lie when you were saying it?
Yeah, it did, to be honest with you, because I was kind of annoyed in those moments.
Yeah.
And like it was a struggle. I feel like because of the skills, I really take a moment now. Like in my relationship, in life, with like almost everybody, I take a moment and like decide how I want to respond to things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Instead of just reacting.
Right. And I feel like my whole life I've always been reactionary and let my emotions just like lead me and lie to me and create like I don't know, a story in my head. Does that, I don't know, it sounds kind of weird, but yeah, I would do that a lot. So that being said, I started to do that. And I'll never forget, our friends invited us to like a small group. It was a married small group. And I was a little nervous because this is our first time getting involved in anything church related again. And I think he even agreed to it because he saw like my growth. And I think he was ready to take that step. Laura, when you are, I know you know this, but to the girls who are listening, when you start practicing these skills and make them a part of your everyday, your husbands will start to mirror you. It will take time, maybe, but they will start to mirror your behaviors. They start speaking the phrases and you're like, oh, this is interesting. So we joined the small group. And the first one was good. Like it was amazing. It was exciting to be a part of something and not feel like shame, if that makes sense. Like I deserve to be there, you know?
Yeah.
So the next one, I remember I literally said to him, hey, I would really love to get dinner before this small group with you. Is there any way that could happen? And he was like, I don't know. I'm stuck at work, but I'll really try. And I was like, okay, well, I'll tell the babysitter to get here at this time. If you can't make it, I'll grab a bite to eat by myself beforehand. And he did. He made it a priority to take me out to dinner before a small group. And the leader of the group was like, hey, just so you guys know, we're going to be saying like one thing that your spouse did this week that made you feel loved. And so she was like, just to give you a heads up, be thinking about that one thing. So at dinner, I told him, I was like, hey, just so you know, in group, they're going to say whatever. And he's like, whoa, what are you going to say? So I will say this also, since I've been doing the skills, my husband has been like beyond obsessed with me and like being physically intimate with me, like obsessed. That's honestly we've always had a pretty good sex life, but it's like next level, I feel like now. So he's been doing this thing. Anyways, he made like a little toy for us. I can't believe I'm sharing this. I don't know if this is allowed. He made this toy for us and he was so excited about it. And I was like cracking up because it was the sweetest, most thoughtful, cutest thing ever. And so at dinner, I was like, I'm going to share about your new toy that you made me. And he was like, oh my gosh, you should. And I was totally kidding, Laura. Like, I was like, there's no way this man would ever let me say that in a public setting.
He's an introvert.
Exactly. And like, he already tries to control like everything I say.
Yeah.
Not everything, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was totally joking when I said that. And he was like, no, you totally should. And I was like, weird. Okay. So I shared it in small group. The whole group busted out laughing. Like, it was a really good icebreaker. Everyone loved it. And afterwards, one of the guys who has known my husband for a while was even like, I cannot believe you let her share that. And he was like, I'll never forget it. This is when I was like, oh, the skills are really working. He said, I'm really starting to realize that I can't control her and she's free to be her own person.
Wow.
I know. I know.
That's what you'd been fulfilling. That was your prophecy over him. That was your spouse fulfilling prophecy.
I know.
Kind of like magic, right?
It really was like magic. And then so I continued to watch my husband like come back to that man that I married. Like, he started to step up and be just like that leader again. I'll never forget, we were getting our pictures taken and our photographers who were taking the picture have been close friends for a while. And after our photos, she like asked Nick for a little bit of advice. And Laura, like, he was so sweet with his advice. And it was like so profound and beautiful, the advice that he was giving her, that I was like, oh, there's my Nick. Like, I was just so like, just what he said to her was so cute and beautiful. And I was like, oh, I remember just feeling so much gratitude for how far we've come. Sorry.
Beautiful.
But then I was just like, to be honest with you, I got really like turned on by that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was an aphrodisiac. I was like, dang, like, and I told him, I was like, babe, when you were giving her advice, I found you so attractive. It was so hot. Like, and then he decided to like quit drinking or, you know, ease up on it. And I was like, I think that's a great idea. Like, yeah, you should totally try that. I encouraged it. And then honestly, hey, he had tried to stop before, but he couldn't go like more than 2 days. And I remember on day 3, just like in my own brain, like thinking like, oh, wow, like this is real. Like, he's really doing it. And every day that he wouldn't drink, I'd be like, oh, I find you so attractive when you don't drink. Like, I love this side of you. Like, I feel like you're here and you're present, and I love being around you when you don't drink. And I just continued to affirm that. And he hasn't quit drinking altogether, but he has stopped significantly. Actually, just the last night at Halloween, he had a couple drinks. And I remember looking at him and he was just like, I'm only having a couple. And I'm like, babe, I don't care. Like, but I think he's drawn to like me being attracted to him, that he's just making it clear. Like, hey, this isn't a problem, but I'm just doing these two. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause he liked the way he was getting treated when, yeah, he
Exactly.
doesn't want you to think this is going to be a nightly thing. Like, don't worry. I'm still going to
Right.
be your present guy that you love so much. How long
Exactly.
ago was that he cut back like that?
Woo, that was probably like, honestly, it hasn't been that long, but that's how much it's affected me. Probably three
3 weeks.
weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, that
Okay.
hasn't
Wow.
drank heavily.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
I'm so proud of him, Laura.
Yeah.
Like,
That is so cool. Well, and I mean, it sounds like you get all the credit for this, really, because I mean, obviously he's the one that made that decision, but it sounds like the shift in the culture of your home became much more enjoyable, and he didn't need maybe the painkiller, uh,
ex-
and you weren't on his paper about it. You were grateful and affectionate when he was sober, which kind of made it even more beneficial to him.
right.
But it sounds like, and he wanted to be around for that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I feel like I could go on and on about little stories like that, about the skills just winning. Like, I use it with my kids. I use it, every relationship in my life has gotten better because of the skills.
Wow. That's amazing. How do
Like,
you use it with the kids rather?
okay, so my youngest started kindergarten this year. And it was a new like school experience for him. He never really experienced full-time school like that. And my daughters are like really good kids. They never get in trouble at school. But for the first 2 weeks, the principal called me 3 times, Laura, and he was hitting, he was spitting, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? And I remember like freaking out in my brain because as a mom, you like start to feel like, oh gosh, this is my fault. But
Yeah.
so I sat with those feelings for a minute. I was like, okay, I can either let this really scare me and make me believe that like my son is a bad kid, or I can speak life into him. I can speak positivity over him, and I can focus on the right things about him.
Mm.
Like you say, like whatever you focus on increases. And that is so true. Like, even when it comes to our thought life, like now when I start to feel anxious, I will literally think, like, what can I do to get myself in a better place? What does Taylor need to make me happy in this moment? Or what am I scared about? And I try to vocalize that sometimes if it is very scary and really bothering me. My husband is there to want to help me like through those problems, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember sharing it with my husband, and I was like, I'm really worried. And he was like, it's okay, like he is a good boy. And I'm like, you know what, you're right, he is a good boy. He doesn't model this behavior at home. So I started affirming the heck out of him. I just like every little thing, like, wow, buddy, good job. You are such a good boy. I am so happy to be your mommy. Like, I am so lucky to be your mommy. I just kept affirming him and kept focusing on the good. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even bring it up about school. Like, I told him, like, you know how to make good choices. I know you do. You're going to make good choices at school today, right? He was like, right. And I actually just checked in with his teacher recently. And I was like, hey, I haven't heard anything about Honor recently. Like, is he doing better? And she was like, Taylor, he's a different kid. Like, he is amazing at school. Like, he's not hitting, he's not spitting, he's doing awesome. She's like, it's crazy. And I was like, yeah, that's because of Laura.
Wow. Yes, I take credit for your son. was doing so well in kindergarten. That is awesome. I love this example, Taylor. I love how you didn't even focus on the hitting, the things that you didn't want more of, right? Focusing on them would have
Right.
increased them. And so that wasn't what you wanted to do. You wanted to focus on how he makes good choices. And you were finding evidence of those and reinforcing. Wow. And you got a great response.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
I share another one about my little girl. She was really struggling with sleep. Like every night, it was like this huge like scene. Like she was like, what if I don't get sleep? What if I do? It was just like anxiety would take over her. And I'm like, this has been like kind of an ongoing thing through summer before I found the skills. And after I found the skills, I was like, okay, how can I teach her like that what she's focusing on is increasing? And I literally told her that, like, hey, baby, if you continue to focus on this fear of not getting sleep every night, you're going to continue to not get sleep every night because it's causing your anxiety to like heighten, and get stronger and stronger. And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen if you didn't get sleep? And she's like, well, I'd be sleepy, I guess. And I was like, yeah. And then you'll get great sleep the next night, And I tried to tell her that like what she focuses on will increase. And honestly, I promise on everything, we haven't even talked about sleep in like weeks because she sleeps fine. It's crazy. I know.
Wow. Okay. It just sounds like magic at this point.
Like truly. And not to say that like life is so perfect. Actually, just the other day when I told Nick about this podcast, he's like, oh, great. Yeah. He kind of knows about the book, but I don't share details at all. But he's just used to me doing like crazy things, I guess. And he was like, oh, great. And I was like, oh, well, that wasn't the response I was like hoping for. In my head, I like kind of took offense, to be honest with you. Like I should have said, ouch, I need to get better at that one. But I remember thinking like, ugh, that kind of stunk. Yeah. So then the very next day, because I said that like right before bed, I was like, okay, that annoyed me that he said that. Now it's time to focus on me and make me happy. And so I did. I focused in on self-care to the point where I was like, it doesn't even matter if he's excited for me or not, because I'm excited for me, and my group of girls are excited for me. And it was like, I let go of that, and it was really interesting to like, look at that and just be like, wow, like, even when I do get hurt, like you can still win at the skills if you put your mind in it. And it's so dignifying. And I guess that's why you call it the empowered wife. Because when I look back at the Taylor I was and the Taylor I am today, I am so proud of myself. Like, I feel so empowered, like truly, like I feel dignified. I know that if I'm facing something, I have these skills in my back pocket, and if it's scary, if it's whatever, like I know that I can face it now, and I'm like confident that I can. And I'm really just proud of myself. I'm proud of the wife I am today. I'm proud of the mom I am today. I really feel like because of these skills, I'm teaching my kids like what they should want in life. Like, I feel like I'm breaking generational things, and it's like the best thing ever.
I love hearing how proud you are as a wife and as a mom. And isn't that what we all want, is to feel like we're doing the best that we can in the given
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And what a far cry that is from how much shame you felt before.
Exactly. And I think that's why I get so emotional, because I remember how like dark my mind was during that time and how sad I was.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad to feel so, it's almost like you feel separate from everybody else in a way, because
Yeah.
when you feel
Yeah.
ashamed. And now,
Absolutely.
and now you just you sound really confident, and you sound like your
I
connections, your intimacy is so good with your whole family.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, every relationship has increasingly gotten better. I try the skills on my sister, on my mom. My sister is drawn to me now. Like, we kind of had a rocky situation, and like all the time she's asking to hang out, and I was like, I'm just wowed by that. I'm like, whoa, this is so crazy. Before, she didn't want anything to do, but it's because I'm like, I don't have like big, what do you call them when you want to like discuss something that's bothering you?
Like a State of the Union address.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Like
leave
I would
those to
do
the
that.
president now, right? Yeah.
Yes. I feel like I would do that a lot with my sister and like hold her to this certain standard. And I just started being like, you know what? She's human. She's going through her own things. I'm just going to start calling out like the good in her and like appreciate her as my sister. And I would send her like little random texts like, I'm so happy you're my sister. And like little things like that. And she started to like draw to me again, you know?
Beautiful. Well, this is amazing, Taylor. You have an incredible story. And your whole family sounds completely transformed. How do you think? Well, let me ask you first of all. So, do you still feel like you would crave do you crave an open marriage?
Oh my God. Ew.
Ew. Okay. Ew.
Like that's all I can think. Like when I even say that, like it grosses me out, Laura. Like I'm telling you, like something really dark was just on me during that season. When I think about even uttering those words to my husband, it really just grosses me out. So no, like I would never even fathom. I don't think I really wanted that to begin with. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it kind of sounds like you weren't sure how to get what you needed. And that
Right.
seemed like maybe that would, I mean, like, let's do something. Let's blow up what we have here because this isn't working. Right. And so, and it sounds like now that you're able to give yourself what you need. And so that becomes like super uninteresting and actually kind of repulsive now. So I get that. How do you think it's impacted your kids, that your marriage, the changes in your marriage, how have those impacted your kids?
So, you know, it's so funny that you asked that, because I just asked my daughter the other day. I was like, she said something like, Dad really loves you. And I was like, he does, doesn't he? And then I was like, what makes you say that? And she goes, I don't know. Every time you're cooking, he comes up behind you and kisses you. And I was like, he does, doesn't he? And she's like, yeah, he always kisses you. And I'm just like, yeah, he does, doesn't he? Like, I'm so like happy that we get to show our kids a happy marriage, you know? That's like, actually just the other day we were at a school event and my daughter goes, afterwards, she goes, almost everybody in my class is divorced, Mom. And I was like, oh, like that's really sad, isn't it? And she was like, yeah. She's like, you and Dad are like, and my other friend, there was one other person in her class that she could name that are still together. And I was like, wow, Scarlett. I was like, are you really happy that Daddy and I love each other? And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I would hate that. And I'm like, yeah, I would do that too.
Wow.
And so I tell literally everyone about your book, Laura. Like everyone. I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh, you're a stranger. I just met you. Let me tell you about the empowered wife. Oh.
Yeah. I love that. Well, what do you think you would say is your best tip for someone who's listening and she's where you were, where she's feeling like she's just craving like being with someone else because
Yeah.
she's in a dark place and she's really unhappy in her marriage and she wants
Yeah.
what you have now where she just feels so in love.
Yeah.
It's secure.
Yeah. I would tell her, first of all, if I was talking to her one-on-one, I'd be like, you're incredible. You have gotten yourself this far, and you should be proud of yourself for at least getting yourself and doing the best that you know how to do in this situation. And I would say, start there. Start appreciating yourself for where you are and how far, whatever it is that got you there. And then I would immediately tell her about the Empowered Wife podcast.
Yeah.
No, but I would say, I would drill into her brain. You have to make time for yourself. Do not feel guilty about that. You deserve it. You deserve to love the person you are. You deserve to love the person who shows up for her kids every day and her husband. That I would tell her that the idea of escape is just an illusion, that you have everything you want right in front of you. And I understand that there are some women who are in abusive relationships, but if you start really looking at the good in your life and start speaking out what you want for yourself and for your family, you will start to see change.
Wow, it's powerful. So would you go so far as to say you felt like you were being verbally abused as far as because he was controlling? I know you feel like you contributed to that for sure, but
no, I don't. Like, my husband is so tender and so good to me. I think honestly, he was just trying to fix me. And I will say this, when he would start to get controlling, I really try to look for his heart message in it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to really think about like, what's behind what he is saying. And I think ultimately there was good behind what he was saying in a way. Like, it wasn't fun for me at all, but he has my best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. So when I do something or wear something, he really takes into account how other people are going to perceive that. And I think that he really does have my best interest at heart. And sometimes life is scary. And sometimes, like, it's easier to control the person in front of you than yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to really look for the heart message in that. And still to this day, like, I really don't take it like personal. It kind of bothers me sometimes, but I'm happy with me. I don't know if that's the right thing to be or do.
Well, it sounds like it doesn't penetrate. It's not as painful or as devastating because of your confidence and your love for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think actually just the other night we kind of were just feeling off for a couple of days. Like, the only way I can describe it is kind of disconnected. Nothing's like wrong or right. Like, it was just and one of the things that I think I practice kind of naturally is vulnerability, as you can tell.
Yeah, it's a strength of yours for sure.
But I was curious to share with him my vulnerability and how I was feeling disconnected without it coming across as accusatory. So I literally just texted him. I was like, hey, I feel kind of disconnected to you and I really miss you. And he didn't respond. But when he got home, he was like, hey, I know what you need. You need a massage. You need to watch the football game and you need to eat ice cream. And
so controlling, right?
Honestly, he was dead serious, like, or spot on though. Cause I was like, that's exactly what I need. Yes. It connected us. Like, I felt so connected to him in that moment. Like, he knew what he had to do to like bring back that connection. But I didn't like tell him like, wish you had, but you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like before I would just start accusing him, like, you don't do this anymore or something like that, you know?
Right. A complaint or criticism instead of just staying on your own paper. I feel disconnected and I miss you. Yeah. Being vulnerable.
And we had the best last night.
Oh, that's great. So now you feel connected again.
I really do. And actually today he was like, what do you need for your podcast? What can I help you with? Like, he really does care about the podcast, you know? He acted like by it, but he was excited for me. And that showed by like trying to help get it ready and take care of the kids for me.
Awesome.
Actually, Laura, I'm in our little camper and it sits in our driveway temporarily. We brought it here for like winter. And we just recently started having like date nights in the camper because we can't always get a sitter at last minute.
Right.
So we'll get in the camper and like connect. And it's like the best ever. Like, I remember our last camper date night. He was like, man, I could do this with you like every single day. And I was like, oh, like, it's just, I don't know. It's, the skills are so powerful in the way that they really do start mirroring you, and you're not doing it for that reason. That was never my motive. You know, I wasn't trying to better my husband. I was really genuinely trying to better myself. And you start to see the fruit of that, and you start to see your husband rise to that occasion and step up to what you're stepping up to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. Super inspiring to see how much he desires you and how much he's stepped up as a result of you becoming your best self.
Yeah. I'm really lucky.
What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time, tell you what you know now?
I would tell her that she is far more powerful than I could ever imagine. That I am capable of good. I am capable and worthy of love. I would just really tell her to embrace myself and start loving myself in the way that I need to be loved. And I would obviously tell her about the Empowered Wife book. I would say, girl, you need to start reading this ASAP.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and that you're powerful and you're worthy and that you're lovable. So yeah, those are beautiful things. Just say.
I listen to probably like 3 podcasts a day, Laura, like, because I just want it to be fluid. I don't want to I want the skills to be a part of who I am. innately. So I'm constantly listening to podcasts. And I feel like a lot of the times I just hear women just like, we're so hard on ourselves. And just, I want to tell these women that you are empowered. You are worthy of better, and good.
Yeah.
And that's why I ultimately sent in my testimony, because I was like, it's just too good not to share.
Yes, it's too good not to share. Well, you are such a great example of what's possible from embracing these skills. And it sounds like you did it with your girlfriends who were on board and standing for your greatness, which is, we know, really adds like a 10x to the power of it. And but you did an amazing job, Taylor, and congratulations on becoming so skillful.
So much for this, for your research on this, for just doing your work. And I really love how you talk about your marriage and how it's really cool, because I feel like you don't hear people talk so positively about their marriage, because you almost have to be like relatable to some degree, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I love how you talk about your husband, and I love that you're just happy to talk about the happiness that goes on in your life. I love that about you.
Thank you so much,
and
Taylor.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you.
I really, and I like so appreciate you.
Thank you. It feels great. I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for this beautiful contribution to the mission to end world divorce with your authentic sharing. Just love
no problem at all. Shout out to my Laura's Angels, because they're going to have a little listening party and I'm going to be so embarrassed the whole time. So, but shout out to my girls. I love you so much.
Love it.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest.
Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll reveal what happens when your marriage drama ends. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that sometimes I talk to myself. Both of us just laugh and laugh.